Sorry. Hi, welcome to the WordPress Meetup. I'm John. All right, so starting next month, we will be switching from doing this webinar style. We will be doing these more as a meetup. It's been requested that we do that, but until that time, if you do have any questions, there is a button down at the bottom of your Zoom screen that will allow you to ask questions there. There's also a chat. You can ask questions there. If you aren't already signed up at meetup.com, here's our group, the Las Vegas WordPress Meetup group. This is the best place to kind of basically join the mailing list, where you will get information about the updates and when new events are going to happen. Just for the sake of the recording, we are doing these online, most likely for the next 2 months, and then we will reevaluate at that point. If you have questions about WordPress during the month and you don't want to necessarily wait all the way until the meetup, we have a couple of different spots where you can go. The first one is our Facebook group, the Vegas WordPress Meetup. This is a great place to go in and ask questions and get answers from 400 plus WordPress geeks right here in Las Vegas. We also have, if you're not familiar, wpvegas.com. All of these sessions are being recorded, and so you can come into here and click on any one of these, and the video is up there for you to watch. If the video is not there, we typically take notes about any of the topics and links that we talked about in our meetup, and those get added as the notes as well. Also, if Facebook is not your deal and you'd rather join us on Slack, we do have a Slack channel, which you can, if you're not already in it, you can just go to wpvegas.com, click on Slack, and you'll fill out the form, and we will add you. And then you can ask questions and chit-chat on Slack, which is also another way to ask a lot of questions during the month rather than having to wait for just the meetup. Let's see here. One last thing that I do want to point out, because I pointed it out last time and it worked out well. On my website, vegasgeek.com, there's a link called Pay It Forward. I am a huge fan of this group called OSMI, Open Sourcing Mental Illness. They are big proponents of trying to basically make it okay to and remove the stigma about talking about mental health in the tech industry. And I would say now more than ever, with people who are already probably staying at home a lot anyway, are now being forced to stay at home. It's a very isolating thing, and depression and anxiety really ramp up. So these folks do an amazing job at providing some resources. I love to donate to them, and one of the ways that I do that is I will offer this up, and I'm leaving this. I was going to only do it last month, but now I'm actually going to leave it up forever, I think. But you can come here and you can pick a slot on my calendar, pay $50, and for 30 minutes we will chit chat about whatever the heck it is that you want. I'm happy to help you with WordPress related stuff. If you've got business ideas you want to talk about, anything, you name it, we will talk about it over Zoom for 30 minutes. And then at the end of the month, I donate the entire $50. I cover the credit card fees. I cover the fees for donating to OSMI. So they basically get the entire $50. And I get a nice chit chat with you guys out of it. So that's it. Tonight we have, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Tonight we have two presentations. The first one is going to be Manny. Manny's one of the organizers here of the meetup as well. We have, for the last little bit, we've kind of recombined the general meetup and the advanced meetup. Normally, Manny has been, him and Robert have been managing the advanced meetup, but it just doesn't make sense to have two online meetups each month right now. One is still plenty. So Manny is going to be talking to us tonight about what should good WordPress developers know and learn. And then following that up is going to be Todd Hewish. Todd spoke at WordCamp Las Vegas, and he talked specifically about MemberPress. And I actually asked him to kind of bring that topic back. I had a lot of people who had questions about it and who were interested in seeing it because they may have missed it at WordCamp. So we are going to be talking about membership sites And then once those two are done dropping all of their knowledge, we'll open up the floor and we will do a QA until 8 o'clock. So with that, I'm going to mute myself, hand it over to Manny, and if anybody has questions, now's the time. I'll start throwing them in there.
Alrighty. Thank you, John. Let me share my screen here. Host disable participant screen sharing. I guess, John, you have to allow me to share my screen. 1 second. All right, guys, hang in there. We're going to start in a little bit. Okay, I am the host now, so.
There you go. You should be able to.
Yep. So let me share my screen. And here's. All right, let me. Do you guys see my screen? Let me know if you guys see my screen. Alrighty. So today for this online WordPress meetup, Las Vegas edition, I thought about this and for a while, and then actually a friend of mine he did a presentation on this in a meetup in Brazil, and then I kind of translated and I also added my experience to this, you know. So what I want to cover today is what should good WordPress developers know and learn, and how to become a better WordPress developer, and how to identify a good WordPress developer, and what is the required knowledge and technology that WP developers know or try to learn, right? So I am Manny Costa, for you guys that don't know me. Spoiler alert, it's a long list, but hang in there. So who am I? I'm a WordPress enthusiast. I did my first website in 1993. I've been doing a lot of WordPress dev since 2010, and I also co-organized the online marketing meetup, and I'm also a co-organizer of this meetup here, together with Robert, John, Russell. And I organized a WordCamp in Brazil in 2016. Crazy experience, but totally worth it. I also helped organize the WordCamp Las Vegas last year. I'm Chief Everything Officer at High Tech Web Inc., which is my company, and I currently work as a web developer and digital marketing consultant to many clients based here in Vegas and East Coast and other places. Disclaimer, this presentation is based on my personal experience and background, and also, as I said, from a presentation that I saw in Brazil. You can find me anywhere. I'm Web, anywhere, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, Slack, Discord, everywhere, Facebook. So here you go. So what are the basics that we need to know, right? The basics are the web triad, what we call is the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And feel free to ask questions anytime. Darcy, Matt, everybody there at the chat, you know. I'm going to cover deeper each of those topics, and this is the basics, what you have to do actually to be a web dev guy. You have to learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So HTML, what you have to pay attention to is you have to pay attention to HTML5, which is the latest, a lot of new features, and understand what is, and here I'm gonna just give an overview. I'm not gonna go into details of this because otherwise it would take like weeks to cover everything. But I also have a lot of links. I'm updating this presentation with links to further details and information on those subjects. And it's based on also of the semantic HTML, is HTML for SEO, schema markups. You should learn this. It's very important in the structured data. And I'm going to send you some links later on this. So, as I say, the web triad, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. CSS, what you have to do, you have to learn about responsive elements. I have some websites that now 95% are users from cell phones and tablets. So majority of people now are using their cell phones to browse your website. So think of that. You know, even though we work all day on computer, we need to pay attention of this. You know, and there are still websites out there that are not responsive. You know, they are not mobile friendly. So two techniques that are very interesting for you to learn also is the CSS grid and Flexbox. And as I said, this presentation, I'm going to share the link with you guys later. So you can go here and then learn more about, you know, CSS grid and Flexbox, you know. Preprocessors like SAS. SAS is very interesting because it's like a programming language for CSS where you can compile data, you can have variables, you can have a lot of great resources here too, you know, for you to improve the way that you create your CSS files. And CSS, if you don't know, this topic is more towards developers. So feel free to question any basic question. No, CSS are the Cascade style sheets, and it's pretty much the look and feel of your website. You know, you apply styles to this file, and then you see that onto your website. And there are new code stylings that are really interesting to know, and I just select 3 of them. Object-oriented CSS, this is Max CSS, and BEM. It's really interesting talk, and there are links here for you guys to learn more about this. And there are also CSS frameworks like Bootstrap, and I like Bootstrap. I used it before. It's very well known. It's not like the most modern one, but it's very well known and used on a bunch of websites. And one thing that you have to pay attention when you learn in CSS is the web browser support. And back in the days, Internet Explorer would be our nightmare. But now I think Firefox is the one that is giving the most trouble. I don't know about you guys, John and Todd, but try to make it to work to Firefox is kind of a pain in the neck now. So, and also there is a lot more for this, but then I'm just covering, I say, like more the general topics. And the last one for the web triad is the JavaScript, right? And Matt Mullenberg, he said, I think in 2017, or maybe it was 2017, right? He said, learn JavaScript deeply. And since then, a lot of people, oh, actually it was 2015. A lot of people are just is diving to learn more JavaScript and JavaScript frameworks. And after this, people were already learning JavaScript, but with this, they even did more of this. He stated this at the WordCamp US in Philadelphia, and was really interesting to see how it evolved with the, you know, Gutenberg and all that. You know? So there is a link there for you guys to learn. Also, jQuery is pretty much the standard on WordPress, but a lot of people are criticizing jQuery because it's kind of outdated. But it's very well known. It's a lot of great resources, and if you are learning, you should know a little bit about jQuery too. And jQuery is a JavaScript library included into WordPress. And the new standard is this ES6. Is the ECMAScript. It's kind of like conventions and ways that you write better code in JavaScript. So I also have links here for you to understand, you know, what it is and how it works. So something that you have to take a look and keep an eye on that too. You know, one very interesting tool is Goop, and Goop is kind of it allows you to compile stuff together, like, you know, spin up a web server and compile a CSS file to SAS and refresh your browser, you know. And it's really, really interesting to do this because it's gonna automatize your process and speed up your development tasks. One thing that is really interesting to understand too and learn is this structured data in JSON LD. And one plugin that is actually using this, it's very well known, is the Yoast SEO plugin. They use this technique, and I'm gonna jump here so we'll see, like, they create those kind of snippets into your HTML output. So, you know, crawlers can read this and output it something to, you know, external widgets and stuff like that. So those two are really interesting to understand into JavaScript. And also, though, the two most popular frameworks, React.js and Angular. I think it was back in 2014 or 15. WordPress, not WordPress.org, WordPress.com, they rebuilt there's a backend into using React, and it was really interesting how they did this. And those two are very powerful JavaScript frameworks. React is backed by Facebook and Angular by Google. And it looks like the WordPress community and Automatic is focusing a lot more into React. So learn React, and if you can, learn a little bit of Angular too. And also one tool that I love this tool because it speed up so much my development process for front end stuff. It's Browser Sync. Browser Sync is an NPM package that allows you to refresh your browser into multiple devices. Let's say I have here a tablet, I have my laptop, I have my cell phone, and I'm coding here. Let me see if I can show you this. Let's say if I'm coding something here into CSS on this file, and then let me see if I can show this real time here. Okay, so let me open. This is not WordPress, but let me show you one example with the use of Browser Sync here. Is it okay if I demonstrate this, John? It's fine. All right, so let me show you. Let me show you guys this. So this is a project that I'm working right now, and then here into the sources, I have HTML, CSS, and then I have the style CSS here. So let me bring this up here. Let me bring this into another screen. So let's see if I can do this at the same time. So this is a client of mine. I'm doing a lot of work for those guys recently. And let's say I want to change something here, and I want to see how that is going to look on my cell phone, my tablet, and on the browser. I have multiple screens here also. So let me go see here really quick. Let's say this title here, right? So this title class is this line. Let's see, go to this line, 40, sorry. So this 487. So here I'm going to go to 487. And let's say I want to, let me try to do this at the same time. I don't know if I'm going to be able to share this with you guys. But while I'm here, and I've probably, when I jump to this other screen, I can show you this. Let's say if I change this to 28, and I don't need to refresh that page, this should be 28 now. You see how it's bigger now. So it refreshes automatically without me having to go, I'm gonna go to this browser, I'm gonna refresh this page, I'm gonna go now to my cell phone, I'm gonna go to the tablet. So you can also have multiple screens. Let's say if I have this tab, and I have another tab here, another window. And for this, you probably need multiple browsers. Let's say if I have this and this, and then I can change code here. Let's say if I want to change the color to, let's say I want to go black, right? So now instead of blue is black. So I didn't refresh the page, but now if I go here, this is black, you see? And that one is also black. So this helps a lot into front-end development. And the tool that I use is called Browser Sync. I highly recommend you guys take a look at this. Browser Sync, it helps a lot to speed up front-end development, especially when you have to do projects for clients that they want, every single device to look, cool and perfect, pixel perfect. This is very, very interesting. And it is not only for CSS and JavaScript, but even you can listen to PHP files, you can listen to JavaScript files, you can listen to CSS files like I just did, so it's very, very interesting. So next, let's go to the WordPress technical domain that I call this. I don't know if this exists or something. It's something that I came up, So what it is, is all the requirements, PHP, WordPress itself, local development, coding standards, envisioning that you have to learn, right, to master this WordPress technical domain. So what it is, WordPress requires is you need to have a web server, either Apache or Nginx. I don't know if once you guys saw here, when I was browsing this page, where is it? Did I close it? I was browsing my local host. So I have a web server running here on my machine, right? My local development. And I'm going to go deeper on this later. So you need to have web server running, either Apache or Nginx. It's good to learn to understand how the htaccess file works and all the config files for Apache and Nginx. Learn a little bit about that. Database server, you need to have a database. WordPress is a content management system that is database driven. All the content is stored into the database and a lot of the options and everything. So it's good for you to understand. And you have to have it running also on MySQL or MariaDB on your computer for local development. It's good to learn about SQL queries, but you never use, it's not a good practice to use SQL queries directly to the database, because WordPress has its own database layer and functions and a way for you to version your SQL code. So it's good to keep that into the code layer, not the database layer. And even though you could run WordPress on 5.6 and older version of PHP, the recommended version of PHP is actually 7.3, and we are already on 7.4. Version rate is coming up soon, and the performance improvement on PHP 7.3 based compared to 5.6, it's amazing. It's totally worth it. And there is also security issues and everything that I don't think they update PHP 5 anymore. So even like 7.1, 7.2 is not updated anymore. So it's good for you to be on the latest version of PHP. Also, it's very important for you to have Let's Encrypt or HTTPS. So the data that is going, transmitted from the client and your website is secure. And you ask your hosting provider, and also make sure that you have everything running on HTTPS when you develop a website. PHP is kind of, it's 25 years old now. WordPress, I think it's 17, right, John? Well,
right? So 16 plus.
Yeah. So 8 years after PHP, WordPress came out. So PHP is been there for a long time. It has evolved a lot. Since version 5 is object-oriented, so it gave a lot more robust functionality to WordPress, to PHP. There are some good security practices, and you have to, this is one of the most common mistakes for new developers. They underestimate, or they don't pay attention to security practices. So it's important to see. And there is a lot of performance gain on 7.4, the latest version. I compare 7.2 to 7.4, way better. So yeah, you have to learn PHP. And WordPress itself, and I took care to link to really good resources here for you to understand how the WordPress development works. One of the main concepts is the template hierarchy. And this image here helped me tremendously. It's an amazing image, because here you understand, okay, this is the index.php file, and if I don't have they don't call index PHP, they go to a singular PHP or to an archive PHP, and all the different template structure here. When you have one of those files, their file is going to be called instead of the main file. If they can't find this file, they're going to go back to this one, to the file one. So this is really important for you if you are developing, especially a theme, to understand how this works. Very important. It's also interesting to understand the database model for WordPress. And here you have like the design of the database. Let me see if I can come this up. This is where the information is stored. 99.9% maybe of the time you don't need to touch this, unless you have to like change a username somehow. You have to do through here or through WP-CLI or something like that. But and also if you are doing some custom table work or something like that, you may need to. But it's cool to understand this. If you are developing a plugin or something, it's interesting to understand how this works. The other very, very, very important, and when I saw for the first time Robert give a presentation on this, hooks, actions, and filters, it made so much sense. It helped me so much to do to take advantage of WordPress framework because, and I also linked here to the latest, it's not Robert's presentation, but it's a really interesting one on WordPress.tv. And this is one of my favorite websites, WordPress.tv. I've been here all the time, and I'm kind of busy because I'm also an editor here. Not very active recently, but I've been helping them uploading new videos all the time, and it's good because there is so much great information here. If you've been to a WordCamp before, you saw the quality of the presentations, and here there are like a bunch of great, and I guess John and Todd would agree with me that WordPress.tv is an amazing resource for learning. One other concept that is really interesting to understand, and if I'm not wrong, I think it was version 2.9. They can, let me go back here really quick. Back in 2005, I wanted to blog. I wanted to have a technical blog. And I took a look at WordPress, and it was very beginning. I didn't like much. I didn't like the code. So I created my own blog, my own code and everything from scratch, the database structure, the code, everything. But then later on, I think in 2009 or 2010, I took a second look at WordPress, and they came up with this custom post types. And this showed me that WordPress evolved a lot as a CMS, because now you could have not only posts, but you could have like books, you can have like cars, you can have the post type, very different types of posts that allows you to expand WordPress to other things, So those two concepts is very important for you to understand and learn. And I also have links here for both of them for you to take a look. Also, most of the time, WordPress already have a function for something that you want to do. And so don't reinvent the wheel, learn about the most popular functions. And here I link to an article with the top 100 most commonly used WordPress functions. It's interesting for you to understand these PHP functions, because you want to take advantage of what they did. You don't have to write something from scratch, and also the generic constants is interesting also for you to understand how this works. One of the most common ones is the database constant with the database name. So it's interesting for you to understand how this works, as a dev. The WP REST API is really powerful. You could connect your website or connect to someone else's website through the REST API, and then integrate the data, send data back and forth. The WP CLI, we actually had a talk a while ago about this, and it's amazing. It's so powerful if you want do a dump of the database, or if you want to delete all the posts that are actually, or let's say if you have a WooCommerce website and you want to delete all the orders from the posts table, but keep the posts page and the pages and the posts, you could run a WP CLI command. For instance, I do this when I wanted to work on a WooCommerce website, and then I download the live database, and I don't want to have all the orders and everything, all the users' information on my local development. I run a WP CLI command, and it helps me a lot with that.
Hey Manny, on WP CLI, two things that I'll point out that are just really awesome about it. One is regenerate thumbnails. Mm-hmm. Is built right into it, so you can do that, and it's super simple. But also, if you host, some of the hosts already have WP CLI already built in, like WP Engine. As soon as you set up your hosting, you can connect through SSH, and WP CLI is just there.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. There's so many great stuff about this. One that I use a lot is this WP Search and Replace. When I want to run, download the live database and then run on my local environment, I have actually a script here. Let me show you guys really quick here. I have this script that I specific for a client. I connect to the database, and I do a dump of the database, and then I download that file, and then I run WP CLI here through Docker, to update my local environment. So I keep with like running one command. I do all this, and it's amazing. It's awesome. Love it. I love it. WPCLI. It's amazing. Great talks also on WordPress TV about WPCLI. So highly recommended. And also recently a lot of development in Gutenberg. And I'm gonna be honest here. Maybe I mean I don't know. I didn't jump into the Gutenberg train yet. A lot of people doing blogs and stuff like that. Maybe when they have the repository, do they have the repository already for Gutenberg blocks, John, or not yet?
I don't know.
I don't think they have it yet. Yeah, but soon they say they're gonna have like the plugins and the themes, the repository. They're gonna have the Gutenberg one too. So there is a Gutenberg development, and actually we have a really good WordCamp presentation on building Gutenberg blocks. Josh Copeland, he runs the Las Vegas PHP Meetup. He did a really good talk on this. So I recommend you guys take a look at that too. So next, this is one of the things that I really like it is having back in the day, if you guys been doing websites for a long time like me, we heard a lot like, oh, it works on my server but doesn't work on your server, or you work on my site here, local development, and doesn't work on your live or your stage site. And that's pretty much because you didn't have the same environment variables on both places. Like, so now because I'm running Docker here, I can have exactly the same versioning of the, let's say, Nginx, Apache, and MySQL. I have the PHP. If the server is running PHP 7.4, I can run PHP 7.4 on my computer here too. So this is really, really interesting. So one thing that I do is, and then I say is, I have a specific environment per project, right? So if this client has this PHP version, this MySQL version, this Nginx version, I also have the same exactly environment on my local machine. So I don't have those problems. Oh, it works on my server, but doesn't work on your local machine, and vice versa. So I do this. And I think it's pretty much, before we had VVV, we have local by Flow. We use great tools, but Docker is becoming pretty much the standard on the WP development tool. And 10app has a really good setup for Docker, WordPress. I'm probably gonna link this later on. This stuff that they've been doing here it's amazing. I really like it, the way that they've been doing this. So actually I should link here too. But if you are beginning, if you don't know what Docker is and you want to play around, there is a really simple project here for you to play with it, like for the first time. You know, after you install Docker, you can run this. You know, really interesting to have WordPress running on your own computer. VVV was very powerful, but it's kind of difficult to set up and implement. Local by Flow is by far, I think, is the easiest and runs really, really, really nice. Map, Web, and Zamp, a lot of people still use this. I recommend jumping to these other ones. I don't know how evolved they've been. To be honest, I haven't took a look yet recently. I did a lot back in the day, but I think those other ones are very powerful, and I love it. Also, I think it's very important, and it helps you a lot to have a good IDE, you know, an integrated development environment. And mine, the one that I'm using here, it's PHP Storm. It's not free, but I love this. I love this for debugging, for coding standards, for, you know, finding bugs and debugging. It's really powerful and very well integrated with other stuff like Git, Docker, and a bunch of other stuff, you know. And the two most popular ones, I think, for Windows is PHP Storm and VS Code. But I think, John, you use something else, right? And Robert too. I think Robert used the
VS Code. I use VS Code.
You use VS Code, right?
Yeah.
So Robert, I think, used the other one for Mac. I forgot the name now.
So you should ask Todd what he uses.
What do you use, Todd?
Hawkins is saying that because he knows that I program in Vim.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Got my respect. Yeah, so I'm not that good, so I have to have help with a good IDE, and I really like
I should
PHP Storm.
definitely use an IDE. I am the first to admit it's not a great idea. It's just it's been too long. So
Right? Yeah, I went to the like 4 years ago. I went to the local PHP Meetup, and they gave a presentation on PHP Storm, and I was hooked. Because the way that they debug stuff, and you one of the things that I did with PHP Storm also that helped me evolve a lot as a WordPress developer. They have the capability for you to debug from line one. So they stop the code at line one, and then you can go step by step, line by line, all the 50,000, I don't know, maybe 100,000 lines of code, and see what everything is doing, and when the hooks are like triggering and stuff like that. So it's really, really, really amazing to debug WordPress with Xdebug and see, what is happening at that time. Oh, so this is why my hook's not working, because I'm hooking to this trigger that is not there available yet. This kind of stuff. It was a pain for me in the neck when I started doing WordPress development. So another thing that I think is underestimated is WordPress coding standards, especially if you are gonna publish a plugin on the repo or a theme. You should follow this, and also have other developers to help you into your code, right? To have some coding standards. And there are coding standards for CSS, for HTML, for JavaScript, and PHP specific for WordPress. So if you go, they're gonna tell you what are the standards for CSS for WordPress and PHP too. So all those links go to this the handbook, and the handbook is a really good resource, for you to see what you should do like this. And the way that I think it's important for us to do this, because then you should think about, have empathy, right, with other people that may help you debug your code or help you with your code, especially if you are co-owning a plugin or something like that. Then after this, version control systems. If you are gonna publish your plugin or theme, you have to learn a bit about Subversion, because Subversion as a version control system. But the most used Git. Git is very, very, very popular, and the two most popular, I guess, repositories are GitHub and Bitbucket. So it's really, really good. I have to admit, I've been doing web development for a long time, so I did my versioning like index.1.php, index.o.php, but back in the day, So now with Git, it's way better for you. Even if you are working alone, I think it's important for you to use Git, because it's gonna help you not only like with backup, if your computer, have a problem or something, you have all your code on Git, but also to help you once you're gonna go jump to the next level to working with a team, right? One other thing that John actually mentioned in the beginning, and I'm gonna reinforce it here. Back in Miami, when I went to my first meetup, I think in 2012 or 2013, I couldn't believe that I was learning all that for free. They had like great meetups, and I was thankful that Vegas also had like very active community, and that is a great resources. WordPress TV, with all the videos that you see on WordPress TV are from volunteers that are actually speaker volunteers that went there and talked. And because also volunteers put up a WordCamp event up for those speakers to talk, So there is a lot of great resources here. I feel like I'm standing on the shoulders of giants when I watch those videos, and I'm very thankful for that. And also there is a WordPress make Slack, like from the foundation. WP as John mentioned before, there is the WP Vegas site and the Slack. the Facebook he mentioned too, and also something that actually I misspelled the official here. Sorry. One thing that I would like to reinforce is use the support forums, because if you ask a question directly to me or to John on Slack or on Facebook, you may get the right answer, but you're not gonna have like the backup of other people actually looking at that answer and supporting. Oh, this is good. This is the right answer. And also, someone else has that same problem. They're gonna take advantage of that. If you search for something, probably the problem that you are having, someone else already had that problem and it was solved. And if you asked here, someone could take advantage of that answer too. So do use the WordPress support forum, to help yourself and to help all the people that may have the same problem. And do a search first, because maybe your problem is already solved by someone else there. There is a bunch of great WordPress Facebook groups. I think this is one of the only reasons that I'm still on Facebook. It's because there are great WordPress Facebook groups, and this guy, there are so many that he created a quality WordPress groups on Facebook, and they list all the good ones. So it's really interesting to be on this one. I am on the WordPress Speedup, which is to performance. I am on the WordPress SEO. There is a bunch of good ones. If you are on Facebook, I highly recommend you take a look at those groups. So after this, how to learn it all, right? So first, let's do a deep brief, right? And I would recommend you, when I did this, I remember I started in 2005 building my own blog, and I was trying to just blog about stuff that I either to solve a problem or to give like a case study on something that I did that could help other people, and also by writing about that I would learn more about what I did. So I recommend you to start a technical personal blog and blog about what you've been learning and stuff like that. And his suggestion for topics is how you solve the problem, how you learn, what you learn, and this kind of stuff. The other thing too that helped me learn about a lot about WordPress development is to try to fix a bug. And the community came up with this good first bugs, which is an amazing thing, because you can help, even if you have very limited knowledge of PHP, HTML, CSS, some of those bugs you could be able to do it, because they are marked as good first bug. The other thing too is try to create a simple plugin. It may be, it's overwhelming to create a plugin, but some plugins are just like 3 or 4 lines of code just to replace the content of something, just to do like a simple thing. Try simple plugins, and there is great resources here for you to understand how to write a plugin. Everything is here. You just need to sit, read, and try to, if you don't understand, if you have like a roadblock or something, you could ping us, go to the forum and ask questions. Also, let me see, what is this? This is a great talk about it's the basics for building your first plugin. So I highly recommend you to take a look at this one here on WordPress TV. Also, it's good that you create this plugin and share, or because if there is not such a solution, you could have people ask you questions, asking for improvements, and see the way getting feedback from people. So this is gonna help you improve your skills as a web developer. Same thing with I think one step further is to create a theme. It's not as easy as a plugin. To create a plugin is much easier than a theme. And also the process to have a theme approved for the repository is a little bit harder, but it's interesting for also to if you want to create your own theme. Also, you could create a Gutenberg block, as I mentioned. I'm probably going to link here to Josh's presentation at WordCamp Vegas last year. And it was a great presentation how he built his first blog. So after this, and here I want you guys have the input from Todd and John. How do you identify a good WordPress dev, and what you guys do on the technical side? Of course, I know mental health is very, very important to have a good mental health, to be a good WordPress developer. And I can tell this from my experience. I had some personal problems in 2018 where I was looking at the code, but my state of mind wasn't good. So I had like mental block. I couldn't code, it was terrible. So I think it's it's good that John brought that up about mental health, because without mental health, you can't be a good developer. But from the technical side, John and Todd, what you guys could say to identify it, to become a better dev?
Well, I can tell you, it's kind of like anything. You first off, you have to have a bit of a passion for it, right? Like, you have to trade off sitting in front of the TV for sitting in front of a monitor and actually doing it over and over and over again. Like, you have to. It's a repetitive thing. Like, you don't get better at it. Like, it's like learning to play guitar. Like, you could own a guitar for 50 years, but if you don't play it, you're not a guitar player.
Exactly.
But I will say the best thing to do is come up in your mind with an idea of something that you want to build, and then start the process of building it. Literally, just start at the absolute very beginning and work out the problems. What's the first thing that you need to do? Great. What's the next thing that you need to do? And then you just keep iterating on that, and don't wait until it's like a masterpiece before showing it to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Show it to somebody early on. When it's a complete piece of garbage and you're running into all these issues, guess what? Every single thing that each of us built the first time around was a steaming pile of crap. It just was. Mm-hmm. The only way to get better is to go through that pain point. So that's I'll jump off the soapbox and let Todd talk, but that's what I say.
That practice is the only way to really do it. And I like what you said, and you define your problem as something small or something larger. And what I like to do, especially if you're trying to become a better WordPress developer, is to think about that whole process holistically, which is you'll get the site, you'll get the theme up and running, you'll install a bunch of plugins, which will do most of the heavy lifting for you. And then if you want to get your hands dirty and program, there's a lot of work to be done either directly modifying or the plugins that you've used to make them do something special, or if they have enough hooks and filters, you can do like these little add-on plugins to modify a lot of, like if you're WooCommerce is a perfect example of this. WooCommerce has 1 million hooks and filters. So if you have a WooCommerce store and you want to customize it, you're not really modifying WooCommerce code. You're using the hooks and filters to modify it at that point, which is the WordPress way of doing that thing. But I spend a lot of time reading other people's code. I'll see some plugin and think, how are they doing that? And you take an hour to just figure it out. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's great, and sometimes it's a filthy hack. But either way, you're learning.
And Manny, the last thing that I'll say before I turn it back to you is when I very first started, and I was just writing straight up simple HTML, mm-hmm. I would literally go to a website where I go, oh, I kind of like the way that they're doing this thing, and right click, view the source, and then I would just copy that chunk of source into my project, and it obviously wouldn't just work straight out of the box. There was kind of that finagling and trying to make it work. But standing on the shoulders of giants, right? Like that's exactly it. Like all these people have been doing this for like 100 years before us. Why not just go see what they're doing?
Open source is great like that because you can just open it up and look at it. Every plugin in the repository you can open up and look at legally for free. Just
and modify it and fork it, and that's what I was gonna say. If you are into the community, you can know the people that actually do writing solid solid code, right? Now Pippin is writing really, really good code. Even the simpler plugin that he has on the repo, it's really well written. So if you download that code and you read it, and it's very well commented too. So step by step, sometimes they have more comments than lines of code. And that's really when you see, okay, this guy is really good because he is commenting everything here, you know. So I think one of the ways to identify really good developers is to see how much comments they add to their code, you know. And like this, you know, go to the repo, finds Pippin's plugins and read his code. It's something really interesting. The other thing too is to have some discipline. Have some discipline to learn, to sit, as John said, you know, instead of playing a game, let me sit here every day for 1 to 2 p.m. and then I'm going to read about this. I'm going to watch this video about this. No, I guess you have to have some passion and be driven by that, you know. I also love what I do. I don't see myself doing anything else but this. And I think it's interesting. And also you have to have this passion to keep learning because things change. Right, things change, things evolve. There are new things every time here for us to learn. You know, and one thing that I also want to point out is that this list is under constant update. If you want to have any suggestion to me to improve this list, to update this list, I don't know. I don't think I can have this on GitHub, but I can share the link for you to add it. If any of you guys watching this or any of the other panelists that want to
Manny, I was going to say, like, I really like what you've put together here. What do you think of maybe putting a version of this, of the list itself, straight onto WP Vegas? Like, we could just create a page and put it right there, because this is a fantastic list of resources.
Yeah. And then to finish out, 2 quotes, you know, live as if you were die tomorrow, learn as if you were to live forever. And then there is another one too that I like a lot, you know, tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. That's what the community is. If you are involved into the community, you're going to learn a lot more. And also, let me refresh this because there's a link. Yeah, there is a link here for you. If you guys want to download this presentation, here's the link, WP Good Developers. I should probably copy this and put into the chat too. Let me share this with the guys in the chat so you don't have to copy this. Oops. Here you go. This is it. If you guys have any questions, comments there. I didn't read the chat here, John. Is there any questions?
No questions yet. Let me let's throw it out there. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Anything you want them to dive deeper into?
You're welcome, Daryl. Thanks, Lydia.
This is a
I can't believe I had no idea that WPCLI had regen thumbnails built right in now. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great, and it's got some, like, if you click into the thing, like you can do some very specific stuff right in there, like for specific sizes and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's just so simple. Oh, cool. So great.
Yeah, so this is it. Thank you very much. If you want to reach me out about this presentation or anything else, I'm, as I said, email, web, everywhere. I'm glad to present and hope you guys could take advantage of this. Thank you, John.
Yeah, my pleasure. Hey, Manny, before you go, Lydia asked, is there a support form for Gutenberg specifically? I kind of feel like there's probably a category on there.
Let's see.
Maybe they haven't got that far yet.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't imagine it's.
It has to.
Oh, I guess there is the plugin, right? The support for the plugin here. Like this. The plugin is kind of the next version of the current version of the Gutenberg, right?
Especially if you're going to be developing, you should definitely be installed, even though you have Gutenberg active on your current plugin or current site or whatnot.
Yeah.
You should install the plugin, because there's a lot of additional stuff that is in there.
And just to be honest here, I don't master everything on this list at all. You know, this is just something I know that exists, and I think this is one of the points of the meetups, right? We don't know what we don't know, right? So this is just like to give like an overview of everything that you should learn, and sometimes you must learn, right? But yeah, it's if you want to be developing your own plugins and your own theme, you probably want to dive into those resources that I shared here with you guys.
And the things that you don't know, you just make friends with people that do.
Right.
And I just keep throwing all my stuff at Todd. So thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it. That was
all right,
great.
I have to go. It was nice to see you guys. Be safe, and see you next time.
All right, I'm going to reclaim the host. And that was pretty good. I was just getting ready to throw it over to Todd, who was on the phone. So
bye-bye.
Hi, Manny.
See you later.
Well, my wife is traveling, and so, your wife calls, you pick up the phone.
You pick up the phone. That's right. That's the way that works.
If my hands aren't holding somebody's live beating heart right now, I should take just a sec to be like...
Smart move.
I'm in the middle of a presentation. Is this an emergency?
Joan, no, everything is not over. Manny just gave his presentation, and he had to leave early, which is why he went first. So next up, I'm getting ready to hand this over to Todd. Todd is going to talk to us tonight about setting up membership elements on your website. And that'll be a little bit about membership sites. Poof. So, tough. All right, I'm going to hand it over. Todd, take it away.
All right. Will I notice?
I got to make you the host. Hold on.
I was going to say, it keeps telling me no. Hopefully I get a notification or something.
There you go.
Oop, that looks better. Who can... Oh, wait. Share screen. Give me 1 second.
I did see the cat show up there, Darcy. Right over your shoulder, Todd.
Oh, the cat one. Yeah. Food time is at 7 o'clock, so that's... Oh, no. This is going to make me quit.
Why is that?
Because I just reinstalled Zoom yesterday. And now Mac OS is like, you're going to do some stuff. I'll be right
back. I tell you what. Hold on. Give me a second. Let me take back the host duties here real quick.
Oh, sure.
And so while you're doing that, go ahead, and I'm going to show off a little something that I found very handy here. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And all right, I lost the great. Well, I know that you guys can see my screen, so what I'm going to do. All right, here we go. So I have a custom post type called movies, and this is a problem that came up for me with a client just the other day, and the solution is pretty cool. But you know that if I'm looking at, so here is a list of movies inside my custom post type. So you can see alphabetically they are in no particular order, right? So if I look at the matrix, if I go and I view this particular post, the one that is right before is Boogie Nights, and the one that's right after is Big Fish. So here's the matrix, and if I go previous, I see Big Fish, and if I go next, I see Boogie Nights. All right, so fantastic. That is all well and good if I want them to be done in chronological order, which is the way that these are, is based on when they were done. But the problem that I was having was the client actually wanted these to be in alphabetical order. You know, the internet is always providing, and this was a gist that we found that had somebody had already written in all of the functions. So there's just these 4 functions and then these 4 filters. And so if I come over here, and what I did is I just threw it into a little plugin. So here's the plugin movie order example. And the only thing that I had to switch was there were 4 spots where he had something other than, you just need to make it this match your custom post type. So once that matches your custom post type, we come down here and we activate this plugin. We activate the proper plugin. So here we are on Boogie Nights, and so these are obviously not the proper ones in alphabetical order. But now that I've activated that, let's refresh this. And so now you can see it's actually pulling in alphabetically what is next. So here's Ender's Game, on to Fight Club, The Matrix, etc. So there you go. Super simple. I'll share this just with you guys. If you guys want, I'll just throw it here into the chat. But this has come up multiple times, and now I have a solution for it, and so do you.
There's another good resource. I get more code from gists these days. Like, it's a great way for people to
share code,
little bits of
snippets. Yeah, absolutely. All right, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's see if the computer's ready.
All right, fair enough. You are now the host.
All right, let's see what happens here.
If you guys have questions for Todd along the way, please go ahead and throw them either into the Q&A box, or straight into the chat, and I will interrupt Todd at the appropriate time.
All times are appropriate. Okay, hopefully everybody can see my presentation screen.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Then I'm doing something right. My name is Todd Hewish. I have been a WordPress developer full-time since 2000. John, I always forget this date. 10 or 9?
10.
2010. January 1st, 2010. I spent the entire year of 2009 going to every WordCamp I could possibly get to, and was like, yeah, this could work. And that's after I've been a PHP programmer since the late 90s. So those are my credentials. John and I started 9 Seeds back in January of 2010, and did lots of other adventures in the meantime. I'm back to 9 Seeds right now, where John is off having his own adventures, but the company lives on. And today I'm going to be talking about membership sites, which I did do a version of this talk in Vegas last how many years ago? 3, 7, 8? It was what, September last year?
Yeah.
It seems like so long ago. And what I've discovered is that membership sites, especially with COVID, have kind of taken on a new life or urgency, if you will. And so I thought this was still a good talk to come up and dust off when John asked me to. I thought that was a great idea. Specifically, I want to talk about why you might want a membership site and the parts of a membership site, not so much the nuts and bolts, but I want to get into the parts that people miss when you're putting a membership site together. So, first of all, why do you want a membership site? You might have a lot of different answers to this question, but setting up a membership site takes a lot of work. It has to be, I should say, owning a membership site takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of yourself to put it together, membership right, and to do it right. So it has to be something you're very interested in. The easiest way I find to be interested in something is if it's something I'm using to help other people. So if you have a product or an idea and you know that it can help people, that's a good starting basis for why you would want to set up a membership site. A side benefit or another good reason or a goal to having a membership site is because it gives you a really consistent, repeatable income. You can do a lot by having a lot of people paying you $10 a month, or a lot of people paying you $5 a month for something that you're putting into your membership site. It doesn't take a lot of money for that to start adding up. It doesn't take a lot of money or a lot of customers before it really can give you a very nice basic income for yourself. Bad reasons to start membership sites are just because you want to make money. If you don't, if you don't start with something that you are passionate about, if you're not at least very interested in it, you can start resenting your own website very quickly. And so, membership sites should be something that the site that you put together either for yourself or if you're putting it together for other people should be something that you're somewhat passionate about. Now, the change from when I gave this talk back in September is that membership sites have become more important after everybody got locked down. If you had a service-based business that was not deemed essential, you just got shut down overnight. So if you have a gym, a yoga studio, restaurants had all kinds of weird problems. Everybody started having weird. We all had to learn new lessons really fast. But especially if you were a service-based business, running a painting studio, things like that, those were not essential, and you got shut out of that, and had to close your doors overnight, and then try to figure out how to survive for the next few months. Membership sites for those kinds of businesses are a way to be able to bring your business back, not in person, but just bring it back online. The most common example I use is if you're doing something that is lesson based. For example, painting lessons is, in my mind, is the easiest way to kind of explain all this, and that's probably how I will be using the examples. We'll be thinking about lessons like that. If you had a painting studio or you were giving painting lessons to people, or music lessons is another good one, and that gets shut down, there's no reason you can't turn that entire business into a membership site based business as opposed to a brick and mortar based business. So I'm going to hit some of the details fairly quickly, not how to set everything up in heavy detail, but how to, the parts that you want to think about ahead of time before getting into it. Now, when I wrote this, I was specifically talking about MemberPress. That is my favorite membership software, and I have used them all. Like every membership software out there, plugin, platform, at one point or another, I have either used it or had a client who wanted me to set it up for them. MemberPress is by far my favorite. It's got a great pricing structure. It's a really good, stable platform. It has tons of customizing abilities because of the hooks and plugins, hooks and filters that they include inside their system. It means that a talented developer can get in and make it do things it wasn't necessarily intended to do in the first place. And so it's a great platform if you're going to start with a membership software. The only other one I would regularly recommend is WooCommerce Members. The downside is it's more complicated to set up. The upside is you get the WooCommerce ecosystem to go along with it, which, love it or hate it, WooCommerce has got something that will do everything you can possibly want it to do already. If you need to use Square, if you're trying to hook up to point of sale systems, and at the same time be able to use it to hook up to your site, WooCommerce has got stuff to do that. WooCommerce already has somebody to solve all of the problems. They already have plugins that will solve all of the problems that you could possibly come up with in your system.
Hey, Tom, do you have thoughts on Wishlist Member?
I have used Wishlist Member. Wishlist Member is a good example of what I call a more kind of middle of the ground or middle of the road. It's not terrible. It's not as good as, personally, it's not as good as I think MemberPress is in terms of ease of use and setup and all that other stuff. But I like Wishlist Member. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not my top two. Even WooCommerce or Woo memberships, I have a hard time recommending, except that I can't turn down the fact that there's so many pre-built solutions out there for every possible way you might want to do that, and it's hard to turn that down, even though it is much more complicated to set up. But it doesn't actually matter whether you're using either of the two I'm talking about just now, or you're using Wishlist Member, or Pippin's got one. What's it called?
Restrict Content Pro.
Yeah. It doesn't really matter which one you're using. The basics are the same, which is before you sit down and start putting it all together, organize your content. So what you can see on my screen right now is an example of a painting lesson site. You will save yourself tons of energy if you think about how you're going to organize this ahead of time. So, for example, a painting studio may have beginner and advanced classes. So what you're going to want to do is make sure you create the beginner and advanced pages first, and then put all the lessons as children underneath it. And you can see that on the screen that I have here, how the everything is kind of indented underneath it. That means that it's easy for your people to find, and all the plugins kind of want to work like that. They have a very easy way to work to just say everything under this is protected by one rule, and then you sell a beginner package, and they get access to everything underneath beginner, and you sell an advanced package, and they get everything underneath advanced. Regardless of which plugin, and every plugin does this thing slightly differently, it doesn't matter. They all have a way that will benefit from you just thinking of your organization ahead of time, either breaking it up into like skill levels, breaking it up into another thing is to maybe you'll have a series. If you have enough lessons, like painting lessons, to break it up, you can have like almost like volumes of lessons, volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, whatever that way is that you're going to organize things and keep adding to it. That's the other thing, is that a good membership site is constantly being added to, because that's what keeps people coming back to the site, looking and paying for your site every month. So keep an eye out ahead of time. Make sure your stuff is organized. I would prefer to do it. My recommendation is to do it like this, just as sub pages underneath. This will let me go to the next slide any second now. Oh yeah, that's just an example of what I meant about the protection. Okay, payment page. Figure out your payment your payment gateway. Doesn't really matter, but more importantly is pick a solution where you can do a single page checkout. The conversion rates for when people are coming and paying for your stuff, if you can get it. Now this goes whether you're using a membership site or anything else, but especially on the membership sites, single page checkout where they sign up and pay all as one big step is a huge benefit, because every time you make people click on a button and go to a next page, and the next page you get a drop off. And I've heard that number thrown around a lot. What was the one they used to tell us, John? It was like every extra page was like 10 or 20%. I can't remember what it was. Yeah, it's a bunch. Don't make people go to extra pages if they don't have to. So if possible, pick one that allows you to have a single page checkout. All right, the setup. Your site is going to be sending out emails. You can't think about your emails going out from your site as your website talking to your customers. Every email that goes out, whether it's one you're sending for marketing purposes or your site is sending, needs to look like and feel like a message from you to your customers. So make sure that they are branded. Make sure that they look customized. Make sure it's got your name. Say, thanks for listening at the bottom. Even if it's just simple things like, here's your receipt, your payment receipts. Here's your, thank you so much for signing up. Always keep in mind a good membership site is a relationship between the customers and you, or whoever is running the site. The more tightly you can keep that relationship, the longer your customers stick around and the happier everybody's going to be. So always keep that in mind every time stuff goes out. Brand your emails. Remember, it's you to your customers, not your computer just sending out information. You're going to need to make sure that your site has a reliable way to send email. If you install WordPress and it starts sending out emails, it is going to be doing it in the worst possible way for deliverability. It's going to get identified as spam. It is going to get knocked down. You're not going to have people getting the emails that they need, whether it's ones you were trying to get them to read on purpose, or they're just transactional emails, they're reset passwords, all that stuff. This goes for anybody on any WordPress site. I bring it up in here only because it's the thing I've had the most problems with on sites. In membership sites, there's a higher than normal average of emails that go out of the site to the customers. So the deliverability is very important. The only way around this is to get an external provider to send the emails for you. So it's not your site just sending emails directly to the people it's going to. It's your site contracting with another company that just does email to make sure that it gets to where it's supposed to go to. They make sure that they're not sending spam, that you're not sending spam. Its generic name is a transactional email provider. Get one of these attached to your site. There's the three I've worked with the most are MailChimp's Mandrill, Mailgun, and SendGrid, which crap, I forgot, one of these is free right now. I think it's SendGrid.
Well, Mailgun is free as long as your site does not send 1,200 emails a month.
That's right. And I think SendGrid is free up to 100 a day, as long as you don't go over 100 per day. So there's a couple, both of which are great solutions. Mandrill is also a great solution, but it starts at, I think, $20 a month. If you happen to already have a MailChimp account, it is nice to have everything in one spot. To if you're going to do the Mandrill MailChimp thing. Mandrill used to be free if you had a paid MailChimp account, and they stopped doing that, and it made me very sad. But the upshot here is make sure somebody else is handling sending your emails. Don't let your site do it itself. Whether it's a membership site or anything else, just it's an easy thing to hook up, and will make your life easier. So another thing I wanted to talk about is, okay, you've decided to make online painting lessons. How are you going to get these people to come to your site and give you money for your lessons? SEO by itself isn't going to cut it. SEO is a cutthroat, terrible business, and there's a lot of people who do nothing but SEO all day long, every day, to try to figure out how to get eyeballs off of generic web searches for websites. It can be done, but it's best left to people who have money and who can hire somebody to do SEO work for them, in my opinion. Some people will disagree about this all day long. It's one of the holy wars that people who work in on the web will have, but that is my personal opinion on it. It's too inconsistent, and at any moment Google can just change the rules, and now your SEO is screwed up, and what are you going to do? It doesn't mean you can ignore SEO. You still have to have it for lots of reasons, but it's not a primary way to get customers. The best way to get customers is to think of something you have that is easy for you to give up, and you could trade it for somebody's email address. Email marketing, done right, isn't going away anytime soon. It's still a incredibly vast area of marketing on the internet. Email is still around. We're still using it. And the techniques you use to do email marketing are the same as you would use for almost any other platform. So it's still very valuable, even if you're doing, let's say, Facebook marketing, or if you're doing Twitter marketing. It's all basically the same idea. So what you want is, for example, if you're giving away lessons, or if you're trying to sell lessons, give some lessons away for free. Or if your product is something that can be turned into, let's say you have a series of videos, if your series of videos is something that can be turned into a PDF, like a book almost, uh, at like a high level intro that could really get them interested in the rest of your entire series, turn it into a book and tell them, just let people know if they give you an email address, you can send them the book. Trade an email address for a free lesson, trade an email address for whatever the thing is. The way you find these people, this is the way. There's lots of free ways to do this. The most consistent way, again, this is the one that does cost a little bit of money, is just running ads. The easiest thing to do is to run Facebook or Instagram ads, or Twitter ads, whatever. If you run an ad campaign, you can, and if you are careful about it, you can get those costs down pretty far, to something like $1 a lead or less, or not a dollar a lead is too much. Well, it's about $1 a lead or less, especially Facebook. If you've got a small enough niche for Facebook, you can get those down to like penny leads, or a nickel leads, and that can be pretty. You don't need 5,000 people on your list to start making money with your site. But we can talk about that customer generation part all day long. It's an entire other multi-hour talk. The first thing to do is really just figure out something to trade, get them to give you their email address. And email still at this moment is still king. So that's probably going to change at some point or another, but it hasn't so far. I already said this a little bit, but I'll reiterate because it's important. Regular content updates. It doesn't really matter how often you do it. Like, it's not like you need 3 posts a week or 3 new things a week or anything like that, but a couple times a month, once a week, something like that, you have to constantly be keeping new information coming up on the site. I remember I was talking about this, free sources for this. One of the ways to be able to find free, I will say this, to find sources, is that you can join groups on Facebook that are interested in the thing you're selling, and you can talk to those people directly as a member of the group. This is not a mass marketing method, because if you do it too much, they will throw you out of the group, they will block you, or whatever. Again, this is one of those things where you can't fake this part. I mean, you can, but it's kind of dirty and gross. You need to be passionate about the thing you're trying to sell. Be a member of those groups because you're interested in the thing that they're talking about, not just to sell them something. Because Facebook is always trying to knock people down from being able to do that anyway. And when you get into actual ad campaigns, don't miss the remarketing pixels through Amazon, Facebook, Google. Remarketing is where, I'm sure we've all seen it, just in case you don't know. Have you ever gone to a website, looked at something, and then not bought it, and then you'll see ads for that for months afterwards on every other site you go to? That's called remarketing. And right now, it's still the most powerful way you can make ads that will convert. Because they'll see your ad, and see your ad, and see your ad 6 or 7 more times until finally customers will say, okay, yes, I'm going to sign up for that thing. So if you're going to look into ad sources, definitely look into remarketing. Now, the reason what I'm doing at this point, I have pointed you at ways to be able to get email addresses. That's the first step. It's just get those email addresses in. So you're not running an ad to sell your product immediately. What you're doing on places like Facebook or Instagram or whatever is you're getting people to give you the email address for the free thing, You're getting them to sign up for a contest is another good way to do it. If you can think of a good way to, again, back to like the painting, the painting people, put together a beginner's painter pack and say, enter to win a setup. You know, $300-400, whatever it's going to cost some money, but you put together all the oil paints and the brushes and the acrylics and some canvases, whatever. You put that together and then just set up a contest to give it away, and have everybody enter for it. Somebody's going to get it, and you have all the other emails from everybody who entered your contest. But all of that is an effort just to get the emails into your system, into your mailer. Then it comes time to actually send your promotional email sequence. You don't grab a bunch of people and then immediately start trying to sell them. Part of what I was saying earlier about content and constant updates and the relationship you have with your customers is email. They should be getting emails all the time that are just information from you. Hey, I'm working on a new painting. I'm setting up a new lesson on how to play, that we can play on the guitar. Whatever the thing is, you should periodically just do informational things. I'm planning on taking a trip next week to do painting plein air style out in front of in the woods or by this thing. Let people are going. Remember, it's a personal communication between you and your customers. Those emails should be, again, coming on a regular basis, and they should be hitting your various sites and all that other stuff. But don't let the only emails they see from you be sales emails. The best way I've discovered to be able to do an actual like launch, either a product launch or a new product, an additional product launch, it's kind of like a 10-day schedule. So you send out an email, hey, check next week. I've got something special coming. I think you're going to love it. I've been working on it a really long time. I'm super proud of it. And you wait a few days. And then you send another email. I'm nearly done putting it all together. I can't wait for you guys to see it. It's going to be great. And then you do that again. So you send an email, wait a few days, send an email, wait a few days, and then you kind of hit them up with 1, 2, 3, and start your sale. Another important thing is to limit your sale. Now, this is a straight marketing thing, and I have to say the first time I heard it, I didn't like learning about this, and I thought it was kind of gross and dirty in terms of marketing. But if you don't give people a reason to buy, they won't buy. They will wait, and they will wait, and they will wait. And so, especially if you can organize, let's say that we were talking about kind of that volume, the multi-volume thing, volume packs of lessons. You put volume 1 on sale, and or you're telling people that they're going to sign up or whatever that is. You put that on sale starting Friday, and you sell it. You send them an email about it every day, and they go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday you send out one more email that says we decided to leave open an extra day. Get your orders in now, and then on Monday you stop selling that thing. Now, people will still contact you after that and say, hey, did I miss it? And in that particular moment you say, no, don't worry about it. Here's a link. But if you don't limit those sales, they don't, they're just not going to buy. They'll sit there forever waiting for that. This is specifically a way to sell one-time products as well. If you're selling something that's more like a membership, like an ongoing monthly membership kind of a thing, this entire sequence here is something that they would get a number of days after they sign up for your whatever the free thing is that you gave them earlier. they should have a sequence before they start seeing, same thing, a sequence of whatever you've really got going on right now, and then they should see this promotional schedule before, again, you tell them you're opening it up over the weekend for them. It's lying or it's marketing, depending on how you define it. This is a conversation I have with my wife all the time because she comes from a more marketing background, and I'm like, oh, you mean lying? But it's just marketing. You don't have to do all this stuff unless you want it to work well. Like there's not a lot of other ways to get around it. But anyway, this particular method I've got here on the screen is a great sequence. I've used it to pretty good effect. Pricing, you have to figure it out. It's totally dependent on your market or your business, your niche, whatever you've got going on. The only thing I would say here is to avoid yearly. You're going to get a lot of refunds and a lot of complaints because what happens is people forget they bought it. And then a year later they get hit with, it only makes it worth it to sell something that's like $200 or $300 a year. And that's a big hit. Like all of a sudden they've completely forgotten about it. Brand new credit card, and they don't know what's going on. All of a sudden they just see it on their credit card, and you get a lot of requests like, I forgot I signed up for this. Can I please cancel? Going to get a refund, et cetera, et cetera. Yearly is not a good idea. Monthly is great. If you have a slightly more expensive product, another good way to split it up is weekly if your gateway will let you do it. I've done products that are like $2 a week. People see $2 a week and go, that's not bad. Like that's what, $8, $7 a month, something like that. You can sell a lot of $2 a week or $7 a week or whatever. What do they used to say? For the price of a cup of coffee, you can, whatever the thing is. So pricing is hard to figure out, but don't let yourself be too bound by it. Branch out and think about the way it works. When I was talking about those volumes before, it actually, part of this comes from a client I actually had that was doing lessons where she did a lesson, the monthly lessons. She came out with 2 lessons a month for, I can't remember how much she was charging for it, but that was her consistent, that was the ongoing membership stuff. So X dollars a month for 2 lessons a month. But the schedule was somewhat grueling. Like having to come out with 2 lessons every single month was really kind of wearing her down. Well, after we did an entire year, we took the entire year's worth of painting lessons, 24 plus some bonuses, put it all into volume 1 and pushed it over here and just started selling it by itself using that previous method I was showing on that other screen. And then she didn't have to come out with it all the time. All we had to do was make sure people keep coming in on the email list, and then they can just buy the entire volume. She doesn't have to hit that every single month like that all the time. So you can always reuse something you've already sold, which is another thing to keep in mind. I'm going to skip this slide. I'm going to hit this slide very, very briefly, which is when you send out emails when you're sending out emails, your sales emails, keep it very short and sweet. Keep the goal in mind, which is, why are they doing this thing? Don't give them 12 different ways to buy your product. Give them 1, maybe 2 ways. So like maybe they can buy the whole thing for one big chunk of money, and then maybe they can just pay a smaller amount of money over time. But that's just a couple, 1 or 2 ways to get them to pay it. If you give them too many choices, they just won't buy. That's another thing. They just won't buy. When you send them when they see your email and click on the purchase link, it should go to something that is very obviously buy now, buy now, buy now. Explain what your product is, but make sure those buy now buttons are sprinkled throughout, but don't give them a ton of options. Really, if you can just keep it down to one thing, that's what you should do. Keep it down to one way that they're going to pay for it, one thing that they're going to buy. Don't offer multiple products at the same time. Keep it focused. Keep it as a single action. And like I was saying at the beginning, make your sales information personal. How are you offering to help them? Not, I have something great, you've got money, let's trade. think about how you're helping them do their what problem are you solving for those people. And that's not marketing or lying. That's just ease of, if you can figure out what that is for yourself or your clients or customers, whatever that is, the money will just take care of itself. Figure out how to help people, package it up, and give them a way to pay for it, and they will. Sales pages. After they see your email, they're going to click on a button and they're going to see your page, which is where they're actually going to sign up. And I already covered some of this stuff. But yeah, make it graphical, make it pretty, make it look very nice. There's a lot of different ways to do, there's a lot of different page builders to do this. You can do this again. There's, what is the name of that one? It's driving me nuts. I was trying to remember. ClickFunnels. ClickFunnels is a third-party product that you can use to sell stuff like this. It may or may not hook into whatever membership software you've got, but it's got a beautiful page builder. But we don't need that stuff as much anymore, because between things like Gutenberg or Beaver Builder, they have those capabilities now built into WordPress in a much simpler way. And by its very nature, it will automatically work with whatever you're using for your membership software. And you don't have to pay somebody else to do it. So between Gutenberg and something like Beaver Builder, or I think Elementor's got the same sales page templates and so on, you can really make a beautiful sales page very easily. But make it beautiful, keep it focused on your product, keep it down to one, just give them the price, whatever the price is, right at the top. Buy this thing now, $18 a month, whatever it is. Don't get too lost in the in wanting to give them as many different ways to buy as you can, because you can always sell it again. You can always bring it back up as a sale later on. Make sure you got some testimonials on your sales page, and make sure you have a FAQ. You can think, as the owner of the product, you can think of all the stuff you need to do ahead of time that you have to, you can think of all the questions you might have that a customer might have for your product ahead of time. John, do you have to go for a second? Okay.
I just want to stand up.
Okay. I was like, you have to pee? I just keep seeing you trying over. Sorry.
It's a valid question.
I just should have let you just be an adult about it, but I was like, you really were doing it's the. You got kids, I got kids. You know how it is. You see that dance, and you're just like, is everything okay over there? Anyway, and as soon as you start getting real customers, ask them for testimonials. The worst they could say is no, and if they give you a bad testimonial, you don't have to put it on your website. As long as you're doing everything else right, you'll get good testimonials, and it only takes 3 or 4 of those to make your product look that much better. I do not recommend making up testimonials. That's just lying. That's not marketing. That is just straight lying. So I don't like made up testimonials. And yes, and the FAQ on the bottom, because otherwise they're going to inundate you with all of those questions while you're trying to get them to sell, which is okay, because that's your job while a sale is going on, is to answer all those questions so that they buy. Which brings me, I believe, to my very last point, which is customer support in a membership site is not optional. You have people who want to use your product. They're paying you every month to get to it, and they are going to have problems because stuff happens. They're going to forget their name. They're going to forget how to log in. They're going to forget how to get to their stuff. They're going to try to get to their things and not realize that they're not logged in, and they won't know why they can't access it. You need to come up with a customer support strategy early on. You can cover it all yourself to start with, but you may want to fairly quickly think of hiring like a high school kid to cover your tech support pretty quickly. I have paid one or more of my high school kids to be my tech support before to do this exact thing, because especially nowadays you can hook up, like you can do Facebook text, Facebook chat as a direct link right on your website, and they're sitting there on Facebook with their phones all day, every day anyway. They might as well be using it to help Dad with his tech support stuff. So, because they know how to get in and reset people's passwords and figure out what's going on. The other thing is your tech support has to be. I mentioned Facebook. Freshdesk is another one. There's more. There's lots and lots of these. I've used Freshdesk a lot. That's a great place to start as a most basic way. Don't let them sit around though. 24 hours, even that is like a long turnaround. I would say that's the maximum amount when somebody submits a ticket that they should expect to get a response back. Really, you want to be on top of that stuff during business hours. Just answer them back, and your customer support becomes a sales tool because you are going to have your customer support link is on your sales page, and people will have questions about it, and this way they can immediately get pre-sales support from you to be able to come back and do stuff. Customer support is also a good way to give them coupons or to let them purchase something after you've closed it down or anything like that. Having that feedback, having that customer support feedback loop is really important when you're running a membership site. It's just not optional, and people skip it. And sitting there and trying to do it all via email doesn't do anybody any good. So put your customer support link all over your site and set it up so that you can do something about that. So I hope in this amount of time I've managed to kind of give you the most basics of. I'm trying to head off the traps that you'll get yourself into trying to set up a membership site. But with this information, I hope you can see that it can be helpful and lucrative, how you can help yourself, help these other people, and the things you need to think about ahead of time before you start putting it all together.
So Todd, as I get ready to open this up for questions, please, anybody, if you have questions, go ahead and start throwing them into the chat right now. So actually, Chris is already asking, can you post a slide somewhere? Chris, this video is being recorded and will be up on WP Vegas, but if the slides are also available, I'll just add a link right in the blog post to that. But one other thing that I want to add to the end of Todd's talk here, that should be another bullet point on there, which is if somebody asks for a refund and you say that you have a 30-day refund policy and they come to you 35 or 45 or 60 days later and say that they want a refund, save yourself all the trouble in the world. Give that person a refund and go on about your day. I can tell you, as a guy who has sold plugins in the past and other items, I don't care what, let's say your product is $50. That $50 that you are keeping from that person means way more to them than it does to you. And you are going to spend way more time than that $50 is worth dealing with the emails and the sob story that you're about to get.
Or getting threatened with lawsuits. I've had that one before.
Yeah, absolutely. So if they ask for a refund, you give it, and that's it. Done.
Yeah.
Done.
Put your refund policy up there, and having one is a great idea.
100%.
I should have mentioned that before as well, especially when you're selling a service-based thing like this, or if you're selling software, having a refund makes it a lot easier for people to hit the buy button. And oddly enough, they've done studies on this one too. It makes it a lot easier for people to hit the buy button, and offering the refund policy for 30 days doesn't make your refund rate go up. It's a psychological thing, but people love it. I do it. I have looked at plugins before and went, I don't know, and I'm like, oh, they have a 30-day refund policy or 14-day refund policy. I'll check it out.
Yep.
I'm much more likely to hit buy, and
Absolutely.
I know the marketing.
You know that you're being marketed to. You're falling right into their trap.
I instead just think like, okay, that gives me 14 days to figure out if it's going to work for me or not.
Yeah. So I have to tell you, your presentation, I love it. I sat through it when you were at WordCamp Vegas, And I have to tell you that so many of these bullet points feel to me like common sense, and yet so many people just don't do them. I don't do them. When I'm setting stuff up, I don't do them. And I know they're common sense. The things that you talk about, especially regarding the email communications back and forth, that's not even just membership sites. That is, if you've got stuff, on your website, just any time, like, you want those emails to be branded and just to feel like we're just having a conversation here. That's it.
Take the extra couple minutes to do. Yeah. Okay, it's not just a couple minutes. That part is a lie. To customize your emails and stuff like that, it's a pain in the ass. Yeah. But take an hour to make sure that your emails look like they came from you. Get a nice header, put a fake signature at the bottom, picture of yourself, whatever.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any questions coming up.
Okay.
All right. So I will say, Todd, thank you so much. I really appreciate this again.
Absolutely.
And if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to reclaim the host. And if you wouldn't mind stopping your
I will stop my share here.
Darcy, he did answer you about the favorite book. Back up a ways.
Life After God by Douglas Copeland, or The Princess Bride by William Goldman. I read those two books every 2 years or so. I pull them out and read them again. Those are. It's hard to pick though. I mean, I've got a lot, and you can't even see all the. It just keeps going. There's just it's more and more. So.
Todd is also my my book Sherpa. He knows my. He's a ferocious reader, and he knows the stuff that I like. So he just keeps telling me all these books, and so now I have like a reading list of like 70 some books. Geez, just driving me crazy. That's in my book top 4. All right.
I try to keep it under control, but then we'll be talking about books. And I'll be like, I recommended that one to you, right? And Hawkins goes, no. I'm like, oh, sorry. Put that one on your list.
Yeah.
How big is your list now?
70
something books. Yeah.
All right. So we have about 10 minutes left. Is there anything I can show anybody? Questions, WordPress questions, life questions. I mean, I'm here for all of it. How's everybody holding up in the this COVID world? You guys all staying safe? I don't know. I actually am one of those folks who lost their job due to COVID. I got laid off last week, so I am taking on side projects. So if anybody has, I'm not looking for a full-time job right now. Thank you very much. But if you do have WordPress projects that you're interested in, I've got extra time.
I love that link that you posted to the mental health thing.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
That was really, well, just because, we were talking, was it this morning? This morning and yesterday. Well, that's the whole worst thing about all this COVID nonsense. I find myself just being like
isolated,
worn down, man.
Yeah. It's exhausting. I mean, I've been working from home for going on 15 years now, I think. And
I don't know how other people are doing it.
Yeah, this is just such a different thing. Okay, there are a couple of questions. So, Todd, I'll throw a couple of these out. So, is there one good WP intro overview video? So, Daryl, that's really tough because when you're talking about WordPress, there's like 5,000 aspects to it. Like, are you talking about using it as a user? Are you talking about using it as like a developer because you're looking to build a plugin or a theme? Daryl, my suggestion would be go to wpbeginner.com and do a search for whatever one specific thing is that you're trying to solve. And you are going to be amazed at how awesome WP Beginner is. Not always necessarily straight video. I mean, they typically do have like a walkthrough video. And what I love about that website so much is that if they wrote a post 2 years ago and then WordPress has changed kind of dramatically in that time, they will actually go back and update those posts. So that content that is already very good will actually be updated and will be current, which is a huge, huge help.
I also like it's commercial, but I really like WP 101. Speaking of membership sites,
oh yeah, WP 101 for sure.
WP 101 is great. They have really well formatted and so on, especially if you're just trying to solve some problems. I think it's like $20 a month, or they're always having sales. But it's easy to use them for like 3 months and kind of solve your problems kind of all at once, or use it as a like almost like a training exercise. But it's definitely worth the money for that. So,
all right, there
if
is
you're
a
serious.
yeah, absolutely. Those are and they're completely worth it.
Yeah.
They even have a tool where you can like a plugin that you can add it to your.
Yeah, I install it on every client, every site I give to a client. I put my training videos in their plugin so that the client can always have it.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a great way to. So whenever somebody asks me questions and I'm helping them out, I'm always recording screenshot or screencast videos, and you can upload those to like YouTube as unlisted, and then it's like free hosting for videos for life. So, okay. Todd, listen up. Here's another good question here, which is, I've got a question on advice for interviewing for a webmaster. What are key things to establish from the candidate, especially things a non-tech person might fail to ask?
Yeah, I saw that question in there, and I was like, how do we do that?
Well, I will tell you what I do. So the first thing is ask for recommendations.
Yeah.
This is a great place to do that. In the Facebook group, if you're looking for somebody, go to where other people who are already knowledgeable are hanging out. If you've got other people who are, if you've got friends or colleagues who also have websites, who's helping them out. Also, I would, again, I'm a WordPress guy. I have been for 16 years, like when it first came out. But at the same time, I had a contact form come in the other day where it just wasn't in my wheelhouse. So I can do a lot with WordPress, and I know I have a lot of friends that I can hand stuff off to, but something came in that was just not in my wheelhouse, and so I didn't take that on, and I handed that out. So, finding people who are willing to show you what their limits are, and if somebody says, oh yeah, I know everything there is to know about WordPress, well, first off, they're full of crap. But you're talking about like you're going to need help with maybe design or development or a theme or a plugin or marketing or DNS issues or email issues. Like, it's impossible to know all of that. It is impossible. So you really need to either find like a small team or like an individual that does stuff, but that will at least show you their limits and say, what are the things that you're not good at? I guess that's a question that I would ask. Are there things outside of your scope that I wouldn't come to you for?
Yeah, primarily if you could start with a recommendation, that takes you so much further down, because if it's vetted by at least one other person you even a little trust, that's great, because everybody's got horror stories. So, and we pass those around plenty. If I would say one other thing, if you're starting cold without necessarily a recommendation, as a non-technical person, make sure you get at least two. Try to get at least 2 estimates or quotes or whatever, because the good ones will feel different than the bad ones. But if you're only looking at one, it can be really hard to vet whether somebody's just throwing a lot of buzzwords at you and whatever. The other thing to look for is like pricing. But again, if you don't know enough about the pricing, you can't really tell if they're trying to undercut their value just to get your work, and then that is actually a pretty good sign of bad things to come. So always beware of low pricers.
Also, this is a great topic, by the way, and I could probably talk about this one all day.
You were going to talk about something together for this entire thing.
Yeah, for sure. But you know what? One of the things that I'm really keen on is when a new client reaches out to me, the first thing I say, so you have to let me flip this around for just a second, because I'm always coming at it from the developer side. So when a client comes to me and says, hey, I want to talk to you about a project, I say, that's fantastic. Let's hop on a Zoom call like this and let's talk about it. So maybe you could send me a list of some things that you're looking to have done ahead of time, and then that way I can have a little context. I might even take a look at the site, etc., just so I have something to bring to the table. But we can get on a call, and a lot of times you'll know whether or not you're going to click with that other person, because if you can't be like at least reasonable in a conversation, that's going to be a barrier to entry. And we talked about getting recommendations, and if you're following along in the chat, Darcy was kind enough to mention David Main. Yeah, like that's a perfect one. So David Main is he's very helpful on this type of stuff too. And so there you go. Yeah, we could definitely talk about running small agencies or even freelance.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was just thinking this morning. I was like, I need to write a blog post about project management.
Yeah.
And about how important it is for your agency.
Yep. We can talk about all that. Do you remember there was a time? So Todd mentioned that he and I started 9 Seeds way back in the day. There was a year at 9 Seeds where we tried. I think we changed project management tools every other month for the entire year.
Every one of them. It was Red Booth and whatever that one terrible one was, which actually is all of them. And
I was going to say one terrible one. I think they were all pretty
The very first one we picked was the most hideous, the one 37 signal, the one that.
Oh yeah, well, you're talking about.
It's so bad we both blocked it out. What is it called?
Basecamp.
Basecamp, yes, Basecamp. Absolutely terrible. And well, that's the thing. If you're trying to run an agency, you need three things. You need somebody to do the programming, somebody to do the organization, and somebody to do the business development. And if you're the only person, that's a lot of things for you to have to shoulder all at the same time. Even amongst two people, you still got to figure out how you're going to split that up.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, it's a 3-person team. But yeah, that's.
And if you are looking, this one of the other things is when you are looking to hire somebody, hire for the things that you don't enjoy doing.
Right.
If you're a developer and you want to continue to develop, don't hire other developers and then move yourself into management.
Yeah.
That sucks. Like if you wanted to be a manager, then be a manager. But that's an age-old thing. And, all right, hold on. Darcy's got a question here. It's not exactly WordPress. That's fine. But would you like me to do a 15-minute recap of business setup, processes, learning? Yes, the answer to that is absolutely, most definitely, yes. So if you want, we can put that on the, next month. There you go, done. If you could please email me like a short thingy description, that's what they're called. It's what the cool kids call them, I guess.
The
descriptions.
thingy, the short thingy.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, Todd, again, thank you so much. We are coming down to the end here. Hey, Hal, I see you in there. Good to see you, pal. Yeah, so this past month has been a little bit of a crazy one for me. I've been, like I said, I got laid off, and yet for some crazy reason, I am busier than than ever, which is both good and bad. But there is a lot going on in the WordPress space. I'm continuing to learn all the time, and that is a lot of that is just by hanging out with friends and chit-chatting about this stuff. So I really appreciate you all coming and hanging out with us on this Zoom. Big thanks to Manny, big thanks to Todd, and I say we do this again next month.
All right.
Todd, don't forget, you have another presentation next month.
Right. No, I'm holding you to this. We should do this agency talk. This is the thing. I like it. They're good.
I'm down. Absolutely. There's plenty to talk about. So. Cool. All right, everybody. Have a fantastic night and stay safe out there, huh? We'll see you next month.
Bye, everybody.